Hey, what's up, everybody? It's just Charles Sebastian, and welcome you guys to another episode of the DREAMERSPRO show. We cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we got you knew the show was coming, but before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and sub to the channel. Be sure to follow me on Instagram. My handle is CTABANZ. So this happened, right? So as you guys know, Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith, well, let's just say these guys are not buddies, right? And we found this out. I mean, we knew this already, but we found out more about their relationship during a recent sit-down that Max Kellerman had on The Ringer with Bill Simmons. Now, some of you know Max Kellerman is going to be doing a project with Bill Simmons alongside Rich Paul. And it was yesterday, I believe, I think on Instagram, I forgot where I saw it, the preview for their new show that Max Kellerman and Rich Paul are going to be doing, and Bill Simmons already spoke about this. We did a show reacting to that news, right? But anyway, he was on Bill Simmons. They were talking sports, Kobe, Tim Duncan, some other things. And of course, the question was going to come up about him and his former debating partner, Stephen A. Smith, on ESPN, who the two of these guys worked together for 5 years. But obviously, you guys know what happened. You saw what happened. And ever since that situation kind of unfolded, we've heard from many people around the situation. We heard from Stephen A. Smith himself, but we didn't hear from Max Kellerman. So when Max Kellerman started to talk about it, and he also kind of hinted at the fact that Stephen A. Smith didn't like debating against Muhammad Kellerman, you know, that got a lot of people talking, and it's really what kicked off Stephen A. Smith's response. So for those of you who didn't hear what Max had to say, I want to play what he had to say to Bill Simmons about Stephen A. Smith, and then we're going to come back and continue on the show.
So Stephen A., you're in a relationship with where you're doing a show together for how many years? 4?
5.
5 years. You're with this dude every day. You're seeing him in the mornings. You do commercial breaks. You're hanging out.
Sure.
And then the show ends, or the show ends with you, and he moves on with other people. And then, you know, and I should say I like Stephen A., and I've always gotten along with him. I didn't love how he handled the aftermath of you leaving, where it's basically like, I told you the show would be better. I just thought, because I think you're really talented. Now, you and I have known each other for a while. Whether it meshed as a show perfectly, I don't know the answer to that, but I just didn't think that was the right way to handle it.
If you're doing a debate show and you're a competitive person,
yeah,
why would you want me as a partner? That's bad. You want to go 15 rounds every day with Muhammad Kellerman? That's just bad. You know, it's embarrassing, you know?
So you think that was part of it? He didn't want to put the time in? Or like just wanted a different type of show? What's your take looking back 2 years later? I don't think it has to do with
put the time in. It's, you know, it's a debate show.
You're ready to roll on all topics.
You want to if you're, I have an idea. This is what I want to put on TV. I want to spar Bud Crawford every day for 15 rounds, and I want everyone to see it. Eventually, you're going to say, I don't want to do that anymore.
And you bring in some other people in a rotating cast.
Yeah. That's one aspect of it. There are others. In other words, that's what I could tell you from my point of view.
Yeah.
And I also think that if you make a calculation, that if you can be perceived as a solo act, really, that you can get paid at a certain level that you can't if you're not a solo act, then you'd like to be a solo act, or at least perceived that way.
Well, so like Mike and the Mad Dog are a good example of a show where it was the two of them together for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, whatever happened. Mike got his own show and he stayed on top for
Do you know who was supposed
6,
to be?
7
Do you know
years.
who he wanted to be in
Did
Mad
you get
Dog's
the call?
new position? Oh, yeah, that was the plan. I was supposed to go over and work with Mike, yeah.
Interesting. Because I got the call. Who else got the call?
I don't know, but we had come to an understanding.
So you're going to leave ESPN and do it?
I did leave ESPN.
But not to do a show with Mike.
Yeah.
You did the show with Mike?
No.
So what happened?
Again, my interpretation of what happened, my analysis is, I think he realized at a certain point, they're not going to make me take a partner. Why should I take a partner? Because I'm beating the hell out of the guys across town by myself. I think when he thought they're going to make me take a partner, then it was like, okay, well, I'd like it to be with that guy. And then when it was like, I don't need a partner.
Yeah, that's too bad, though, because I actually think long-term, he did need a partner, because it's always good to have people to play off of.
Look, I don't need a partner either.
No.
But I like having one because I find conversations more interesting than just talking into the wind, you know? How to make that experience even better? Hang out with your friends and talk about sports, right? Like, why would you not want to do that? It's interesting because Stephen A. was the one partner I've ever had over like years, where I didn't feel like a relationship was really forming. And I like to go to work and you know.
You could feel a little bit watching it. And it was hard to tell how much of it was theater and how much of it was like, oh, these guys just don't get along in the same way, or
whatever you feel about who you're working with and what the situation is. To me, a cardinal sin is betraying that on the air. You should always be thinking about making the show entertaining.
Right.
And I do think it reached the point on that show where it was like, come on, dude, we the first priority is to make good TV.
So you heard what he said. So last night as I was relaxing, I saw a video from Stephen A. Smith's channel. It says, responding to Max Kellerman, finally, Max, you sure you want to go there? And it's a 27-minute video that now has about 170,000 views. So I click on the video to watch what Stephen A. Smith is saying. And in typical Stephen A. Smith fashion, man, he got back at Max Kellerman, right? He fired back, and not just him. He also even went at Marcellus Wiley, right? And I'm not going to talk about that because I know Marcellus is going to be responding to Max on Monday. So I want to hear what he has to say first before I jump into this one. But Stephen A. Smith didn't hold back. So what we want to do is we're going to play what Stephen A. Smith had to say in response to Max Kellerman's comments. And we're going to come back and continue on the show. Take a listen to Stephen A. Smith here.
Oh, my God. Oh. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. I had my researchers check and make sure that wasn't AI. That wasn't some shit that somebody just made up. You know, I had to double check that shit. I really, really did. I couldn't believe it, okay? Let me go through a couple of things. Number one, and this part I'm serious about. Bill Simmons, I got love for you, bro. You gotta do your job, you gotta ask questions. But to ask a question about whether or not I wanted to put in the work, seriously, bro? Me? Come on, Bill. That's like me asking, do you want to watch the Boston Celtics? Come on, man. You know better. You know better. Max Kellerman. We didn't have the sound where or did I hear correctly? Did we show when he called himself Muhammad Kellerman, as in Muhammad Ali Kellerman? Muhammad Ali Kellerman. If we were talking about boxing, you're absolutely right, because I don't know anybody that knows more boxing than Max Kellerman. He's extraordinary, no doubt about that. And whether it was him, whether it was Larry Merchant, depending on what your entertainment choice is, there was no shortage of knowledge from either one of them. And Jim Lampley is just the greatest. George Foreman, Roy Jones Jr. all did a good job, but Max Kellerman's right in the mix. Phenomenal. We're talking about First Take, though. And he took it someplace that all I want to say is, are you really sure you want to go there? See, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. Are you sure you want to go there? Because I'm not unless you take me there. Now, to backtrack, we worked for 5 years together, 2016 to 2021. And yes, I didn't think we worked together any longer. I did not want to do a debate show with Max Kellerman. What I keep trying to explain to all of y'all is that under no circumstances do I dislike or hate this dude. This ain't some Stephen A. and Michelle Beadle thing going on where she was coming at me like that, or, me going at, the fat bastard. This is not that. I got news for most of y'all. Max Kellerman is one of the kindest dudes you'd ever want to meet. He's actually a very nice guy. We want to go there, let's go there. Max Kellerman was succeeding Skip Bayless. Max Kellerman's first day on the job, he said, Tom Brady is a bum. He's going to fall off a cliff. And the next day he apologized. That's no crime. There's nothing wrong with it in the grand scheme of things. A matter of fact, decent thing to do because he might have felt his comments were a bit extreme. We've all been there, me too. But there was an audience that was accustomed to Skip Bayless being diametrically different for a decade. And when Max came on the show, the top ratings were handed to us because of what Skip and I were doing. So the audience has an expectation for that show. That show is not Get Up. That show is not PTI. That show is not Around the Horn. That show is not SportsCenter. That show came with an expectation that the audience was looking for us to live up to. Anybody that's in front of the camera has an obligation to be compelled to be pulled towards what the audience wants because that's how you get ratings.
Excellent. So you heard what Stephen A. Smith had to say there. What are my thoughts about this? I think I've said this before and I'll say it again. Stephen A. Smith loves to get dissed, bro. He loves to get... If you have any kind of notoriety, if you're a person of, celebrity, he's going to respond to you, man. He's going to respond to you. So when Max made those comments, I knew it was only a matter of time for Stephen A. Smith to go at Max Kellerman, and that's exactly what he did. What I think about what Stephen A. Smith had to say. Look, I think at this point, people feel the way that they feel about that situation, right? People feel the way that they feel. Now, it would also have been interesting because there's a kind of underlying story here that's not really being talked about, and really it has to do with that whole T.O. thing, right? Y'all remember when T.O. went on First Take and he had those comments, Max is blacker than you. You remember that? That also played a major role. There's more to it than what they're saying, right? You know, that was something that really, really bothered Max. And I remember covering that show when Max was there a number of years ago. And I used to say, Stephen A. Smith is always looking like he's trying to embarrass Max on TV and trying to punk him and all of this. I used to say it. And people are like, oh, no, man, it's just TV, it's acting. I'm like, nah, this is wrong, man. Kendrick Perkins used to come on there and be shouting at Max, like, Max, I'm like, this is not normal, man. People are like, oh, no, it's just TV. I'm like, nah, it's not. I said the same thing with Shannon Sharpe and Skip Bayless when that thing. And I'm like, nah. So when they finally did have this breakup and Stephen A. Smith requested for this guy to be removed from the show, which ultimately led to him being fired, I said I wasn't surprised by this because you could see the tension on television. You could actually see the tension on TV, right? So it looks like that tension still exists. I don't know if Max harbors as many. Well, Max kind of has like this kind of sarcastic smile that he always wears on his face. So you never really know what he truly thinks. But I also think there's something to this with Rich Paul going after Max Kellerman after how things ended with Max. I think there's some chess moves being played there. Trust and believe. Rich Paul and those nobody. I said those guys are knowing. Nobody ever accused them of being dumb, right? Those guys are very strategic in what they do, and I believe a part of that too is kind of to get back at Stephen A. Trust me, I believe it. I don't know it for a fact, but I believe that there's some of that in there. Rich Paul and them guys like, okay, you're gonna be talking about my man LeBron like this, okay, dog. All right, I'm gonna go get this guy, and we gonna talk. These are my thoughts. Whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts in the comments, and we catch you on the next show. I'm out.